No, we don't have a. Just,
So good morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Cedric from the University of Liverpool. My supervisor is Olivier Menoukeu Pamen. He's also one of my collaborators on this work with Vianney Biata Genji from University of Edinburgh. So basically, I'm going to talk to you about the impact of social factors on loan delinquency in microfinance. So I'm going to start with the table of contents, just introducing what I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about microfinance in the developing world. I'm going to mention some works that have been done in the past. I'll mention the problems and objectives of this work. Mention the potential impacts of the research. Then I'm going to talk about the mathematical aspect of things, define how we are thinking about delinquency, because you need to think about this in the developing world. Now, we also have, in the models, you consider different types of models, fixed effect, random effect. I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to mention an important part of this project, which I will highlight, which are the social factors, which is something that you believe can help or can, okay, thank you, can provide some impact when analyzed. And then I will mention predictions, insight, conclusions of the our work. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what is a microfinance? So a microfinance is basically an institution that provides loans, small amount of loans to low-income individuals and also businesses. Okay, let's see. And also small-scale businesses. So the target, as I mentioned, is low-income individuals, small-scale businesses. But the issue is that when you provide money to this type of individuals, they carry a lot of risk because they have, usually they don't have a fixed job, they don't have stable income, you don't have social security, things like that. So this institution exposes themselves to a high level of credit risk. And well, this can lead to bankruptcy and different issues. So to basically offset the risk there, what they do is that they increase the interest rates, and then the customers cannot pay again. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? So this is microfinance. Some of the work that have been done in the past. So earlier work and still now, people use customer information demographics to do the modeling of that's the delinquency, predicting delinquency. But researchers have also realized that there are external factors that influence the repayment, right? You have the customer demographic, but they are not just there. Things influence them outside. So the economic, macroeconomic, you have a foreign exchange and things like that. Foreign exchange rates, consumer price index, things like that. But in this work, what you're adding as extra is social variables to all these variables. Social variable in the sense that if you are in the developing world, you have things that influence people locally, for instance, religion. Maybe there's specific periods in the year where, for instance, Muslims have Eid. During Eid period, they have to follow certain rules. They cannot eat certain things. And you also have, you have different things. So this is something that we want to highlight in this work and how this affects the models. So this is just to share with you a a picture from a market in Ghana, because women are usually the people who go for this type of loans. And well, this makes me nostalgic because well, I'm from Ghana. Okay, so what are the problems and objectives? We want to focus on modeling the repayment throughout the loan duration. So it's not a static prediction to predict throughout the loans period. We identify social factors. We want to identify social factors which will impact significantly the repayments. We want to estimate transaction probabilities, and then using this, hopefully we can predict accurately with the acceptable level of accuracy the next state for transition. So why is if you are in a given state now, when you repay maybe in 2 months, why are you going to be? I'm going to talk about this in the next 2 slides. So what is the potential impact of the project? So these results can be used by microfinance to identify social factors which may impact on loan delinquency in microfinance or any financial institution. Predict ahead of time whether customers will default or not, or be delinquent or not. And make faster decisions with respect to giving loans, whom to give a loan. Organize their portfolio ahead of time because of the above points. And then understanding better account behavior with respect to the different type of delinquencies. So just to give a little snippet of the data we are working with. So simple picture is that here 60% of monthly loans, so these are monthly repayment, 60% are repaid fully. But the remaining 40% are partial repayments. And out of this 40%, you have this, so it's about, this will be 25%, right, or 40%, are not repaid at all. So one thing I have to mention also is that microfinance accepts partial loans. It's not like in banks when you pay, if the money the amount is not the required amount, it bounces back. So microfinance accepts partial repayment. So this is why you have these different categories. So when you have this type of behavior over time, you have a lot of accumulated risk, and then this influences non-performing loans and things like that. So the setup of our model. So we try to rethink a little bit about delinquency. So what happens in microfinance, at least with the data that we have, is that when customers basically play catch-up, they try to catch up to their loans, right? They repay over time. So first month, let's say they come, they pay 30% of their agreed amount to repay that the first month. It's flat rate, so it's the same amount every month, at least in this data. So the second month, the customer can come and then repay maybe 150% of the next month amount. So if you add it cumulatively, you can have like maybe 80% paid cumulatively, or 90%. Then the next month, the customer can come and then repay maybe 80%. So basically, over time, the risk, well, if you look at it monthly, at a given month, you say, okay, you repay 30%, but maybe the previous month, you paid a lot more. So when you add it, you have a different dynamic. So we call this the cumulative model, and this is looking at repayment this way. So basically, empirical analysis will determine 82%. So whenever the amount we pay is above 82%, we say the customer is willing to pay. We don't use a strict definition of delinquency. So we want to make it flexible. And when it's below 82%, there's a delinquency. Now, we also consider a different type of model, a multi-state model, where you have now different levels of delinquency. So one means good repayment when the repayment is of a given month is is below, this should be 50%, it should be 50%. Then you have medium repayment between 50% and 90%, and then above 90% is a bad repayment. So this is the model. In our setting, we consider a random variable which is Bernoulli, and because it's Bernoulli, you can define this is the variable with respect to a transition. So Hj is that's a transition from a good repayment to a bad repayment, for instance. So it is defined like this, and we consider interval that the other type of transitions do not add much to the transition considered Hj, so they are not informative. That's our assumption. In this setting, we consider a logistic regression model, and we use a baseline here, which is piecewise, because loan in microfinance is usually very short, so you can actually capture monthly what's happening. So you can detect these things, and you can make inference from that. So using this probability, you can well easily compute the parameter estimates of the model, which is alpha Hg. This is respect to transition. We also consider a different type of model. We want to account for information that will have helped improve the prediction of the model, which are in this case called random effect. So we make assumption about the distribution of some random effect that we don't know. So this random effect basically, in this case, follows a normal distribution. And using this assumption, we also use this form of the logistic, and we add the random effect, which is called frailty here. And you can estimate these parameters using minimizing the conditional expectation here. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time there, but so this is the general form of the model. So one thing I have to mention is that the models that we consider, the frailty that we added are significant. They play, we detected that they are significant, so they influence the models, but we found out that they did not improve prediction. So this it has to be studied a little bit more. But if you consider fixed effect models, you can see that in general. So you consider in this case 3 fixed effect models: PT, Boost, Logistic, and Random Forest. You can see that well, the predictions are within a bound -2, and there is no real pattern on the residual. This is monthly aggregated residuals, which means that the models do well. Now, this is also an important outcome of our research, which highlights the importance of social factors. What do I mean by that? So the variables considered in our models, that you have the demographics, you have behavior, you have macroeconomic, and you have social. So here, if you look at long vacation, which is basically a variable which looks at the time in the year where parents, students don't go to school, parents go to the market, you see that the estimate of this coefficient is negative, right? Which means that the probability, this is negative, this is positive. So in general, the likelihood of making this type of transition, which is 1 to 2, a bad movement, is low compared to making well, 2-1 is a good repayment. So the probability of making a delinquency is much less during this period. This is low vacation. This can be explained by the fact that during this period, students or the pupils help their parents in the market, so parents also don't have to pay school fees. So this is an explanation for this type of estimate. And during the Eid celebration, which is Muslim celebration, you have a negative estimate here, but this estimate, in terms of probability, is less than this. So even though they are both negative, they still have a smaller probability of making delinquency. So during these 2 periods, customer accounts are less likely to be delinquent. That's it, they are less likely to make a 1-2. We also observe that group loans are more likely to people who take loans as group are more likely to be delinquent also. Now I want to talk about the predictions, the outcomes of our results. To predict the, let's say, if you consider a time T1, initial time T1, an account being in a state H at time T1, and you want to predict where that account will be in let's say in 3 months, right? We consider the cumulative matrix, fit equation 6 to estimate this, and because of competing risk, we have many transitions from one state. You can deal with the dependency with equation 7. So another challenge is in multi-state is that when you predict, you have many probabilities, but the highest probability is not always where the transition that occurs, because when you build the model, there can be a lot of bias because there's a lot of transition with respect to, let's say we take 1-1, most people can be doing 1-1. So when you build the model, you can have higher probability there, but that's not what actually occurred. So you need to find a cutoff point to be able to select the next state. So to do this, there are many methods in the industry that have been proposed. This is one. So in this work, for instance, they define this likelihood function. And based on this function, they do an optimization and they find the optimal cutoff point. So you have 3 states in our case, you find cutoff points, and to be able to determine the next state, you use this criteria. In our work, we propose a new method which is called OMCC, Optimized Matrix Correlation Coefficients, where we define NH1, H2 to be the count of transition. So the count of transition, let's say H1 to H2, and you can basically estimate these quantities at equation 10. Then you can have the matrix correlation coefficient here, which can help you estimate the optimal threshold parameters. Now, when we look at the results of our model, so DNC is the industry, one of the industry standards, and our model, when you predict to the delinquents, when you predict to all the states, and you only look at the accuracy of the model when you go to the delinquent states, the OMCC, which we propose, is has a higher accuracy, which is one of the highlights also of our work. So this was based on a 50 bootstrap. So we train many times the model over a long duration, and this is consistent. So I'm going to give some conclusions and insight from our work. So from our results, we have showed evidence that social factors may play an important role in explaining delinquency. So when you are modeling this type of event in the developing world, one ought to look at this type of behavior socially. So this can provide invaluable insight to microfinance institutions. We also implemented in this work time-dependent and time-independent strategies, which I did not show. I did not show the work on time-dependent, but we also implemented this, and they showed significance, statistical significance, which need to be explored more. And you're able to also propose a new method to predict things in multi-state when you're predicting doing multi-state. So further work, we will look at modeling group delinquency, which is the basis of microfinance group lending. We want to look at the optimal composition of groups. So so if you take individuals, fishermen, banking, different sectors, what is the optimal group that can help alleviate the delinquency? And we also try different type of frailties and maybe different models that have the logistic progression. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just interesting. The only thing that I would say is just not only interesting to is super interesting, and my only comment would be, it's just beyond delinquency, it just seems to be very interesting for also product design. In the sense that, I mean, repayment schedules may need to be differently defined according to different social factors, which is a bottleneck for many microfinancial institutions and for servicing low-income workers or people from different vulnerable groups. But also, I just fear, my only concern would be integrating this kind of models. I mean, making sure that it doesn't exclude people beforehand, just because of, you know, how they're positioned within the social factors that are being identified. So those are my two quick comments. Thank you.
So we have more questions and comments for Cedric during the 20 minutes break. We start again at 11:50. If you allow me to quickly.
Maybe if they can all squeeze into the middle.
As you stand out to go like they just take a quick minute. Now we don't know. Thank you.
So online audience, we reconvene at 11:15.